Welcome to Faith Fulcrum, a podcast in which Scott and Mark have conversations about faith, spirit, creativity, meaning, and almost anything else. We don't always agree, so you don't have to either. But we do agree that a good conversation sometimes makes a great song.
So, Scott, last time, there was some great songs in the episode, but none of them sounded like you. I mean, they sounded good, but that guy was not you. What?
Wait a minute. I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
And none of them sounded like me. They sounded good.
Well, they sounded good like you. Like you sound good, but they didn't sound like you. That guy, there was a guy's voice that wasn't your voice. What gives with that?
Well, hey, I've been working on this for the better part of a couple of years, I think now.
A couple of years.
I'm a musician. I'm a songwriter. I do a lot of recording. I got a home studio, all that stuff. Well,
you've written songs for hire. You've written songs on demand. For
Songfinch, a company that you can buy songs from me.
Okay, there's a plug.
But there we go. And then, but also, for other things, I've done some music for documentary films, but also just my own stuff.
Yeah.
And, so when AI came out and some of these tools started, I first started, with the written word, with ChatGPT, frankly, working on lyric sorts of things. But then when I came in contact with Suno.com, another plug there, it has increased in its capacity over the last year in just ways that I could not have imagined.
Like technology does, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I'm a professional educator, and I work with some folks who are looking at AI in education, and we're looking at the ethical issues around that.
Of course.
And so I've been grappling with what do I, as an artist or as an educator, where do I stand with that? So I decided the best thing for me to do is to do as much of it as I can and stretch it. And so I've entered into a lot of creative stuff of my own from different angles, using AI in different ways and to different degrees. And
so that's me those songs were all AI.
They were.
They said that tune's as clean as spring, but I don't hear your heart in the strings. I smiled and shrugged, said maybe true. Been singing sharp when I should be blue. That wasn't me, but it sounded good. Smooth like stone from the preacher's wood. Now I'm reaching back with a busted key, trying to find the song that sounds like me. Spent 2 years hiding in a borrowed style. Learned the tricks, forgot to smile. Now the holler calls with a scratchy tone, and the song I lost might still come home. There wasn't me, but it passed the test. Kept me warm and gave me rest. But I had traded all for a crooked chord that echoes the man my voice ignored.
But how did they know what we were talking? I mean, they seem to be about what we were talking about. How does that work?
Exactly. Well, and there's multiple pieces that I'm using. First of all, we're collecting this on Riverside. We're recording this on
another plug
app called Riverside.
Yeah.
And that gives me a really nice transcript of everything. Okay.
So text, speech to text.
Speech to text, first of all. Then I take that and I go over to a customized GPT that I've built and used over more than a year now, training.
I want to talk about that later, maybe in another episode, because that is fascinating to me.
And so then it knows me and I know how to prompt it. And I gave it the transcript and I said, I want you to search. And I just decided 5. I want you to search for 5 really good seeds for songs in here.
Song seeds,
basically. And I don't remember what else I asked for. I think I asked for some specific sorts of thoughtful singer-songwriter-ish.
You had some prompts.
Kind of, yeah. But
you fed the whole text into it.
The whole text.
In a way, that was the prompt. I mean, that was
the whole thing. Prompt. The whole thing. Okay. And so it did multiple things. It went through and it found the things that were songworthy, that it knew based on having learned from me a lot of stuff that I like, the things that I would probably like, that I would think would be a good song. And then it picked those out and then it gave me lyrics for that. Now, since you and I have decided we're not going to allow ourselves to be bogged down with a lot of tedium because we'd like to get a lot of episodes out, I did not.
Well, it was the last season 1 was as you have described it. It was very it was very tedious. It was incredibly.
It was a lot of work for 10 episodes.
A lot of work.
Yeah, and so what I did, I made the decision, and you've always got to make this decision. Is this something now that I'm going to dive into and take further on my own, or just go with it? And I decided to go with it. So I took it over to Suno.com, and I do have a paid subscription there. There's some things you can do free, but you pay a little bit and you can do a whole heck of a lot more.
I have played around with the free version at your prompting, yeah.
And then what I did, because I wanted these songs in this episode to sound similar in style, but also sung by the same voice.
Right, you built the voice. You built the personality.
Right. I took the first set of lyrics and prompted and did a couple of different songs, but I liked one, and it was the male voice that you heard in episode 1. And then I turned that into what they call a persona, which takes not only the voice, but also the kind of style of the music, the genre and instrumentation style.
I noticed that, It was very much cohesive, yeah.
To prompt the other 4 songs. And so we got 5 songs. Then I went back to ChatGPT. No, I'm sorry.
ChatGPT.
I didn't go there. I went back to Riverside.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I said, Riverside, please search and tell me where in the transcript, the place where we talked about framing it was. And so it pulled that out. And then I was able to take that and go into the recording I had already downloaded. And because it gave me the count, the number. Uh-huh. And I went there and I found it. And then I listened a little bit and then dropped the song in at the right place where it made sense. Yeah. In our
it's
conversation.
A form of editing.
Right. So, and what I think is important about this episode is that people who are listening to this now probably have already heard a snippet of one of the songs from this one right at the head of this episode.
Right.
And they're going to hear them all. And you and I and Amy, our guest, we're not going to get to hear any of them.
Right.
All the way through while we're talking. So we're going to be talking about something that they're already,
okay.
They already know what kind of genre and voice we've got picked out,
So now you've introduced our guest. And the reason, now I wanted to invite Amy. Hi, Amy. This is Amy Abeln.
Yay.
I wanted to invite her partly because she fits actually into our category of spirituality, creativity, and at the moment we're talking about AI. And Amy has experience and has blossomed in all of these areas. So hello to Amy Abeln.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you, Amy.
A writer, an activist, and she's been experimenting with AI a bit. Mm-hmm. Tell us what you want us to know about you as a person, Amy.
Well, I would say that I really am identifying as an activist right now. And I would say over the last year, that's happened for me with change in the way the government's doing things, I guess, and ICE in particular.
Right,
Mhm.
ICE. In
So,
fact, you wrote an article that appeared
mhm,
in
the Brooklyn.
the Brooklyn
Mhm,
Rail,
mhm,
about
Mm.
ICE in Chicago. You're a
mhm.
Chicagan?
Yeah.
Yep.
For about 20 something, 25 years now.
Tell us the
Yeah.
title
So,
of that article so people can look at it.
yes, it's called The Siege of Chicago, and it's in the January issue
The
of the
current
Brooklyn.
issue of the Brooklyn
Mhm.
Rail.
Sure is. Yeah.
Terrific.
Mhm. Mhm. And I would say that for that and for a lot of my essay writing, um, and just tapping in back to AI,
Okay.
uh, and I hate to even bring that up because I know a lot of people within the activist world are
No,
wildly
yeah. We gotta
against
talk
it.
about that. That's gotta be
Yeah.
we've gotta talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Um,
you are still using it, are you?
Oh, yeah. I find it just a wonderful tool. And I recognize the dangers of it, but I also recognize like the possibilities as well. And I think that we live so much of our life in fear of things that we don't allow ourselves to, find out potential. So
Yeah.
I'm more of a potential person. I like to ride things to the end of the
Yeah.
line. So,
Well, I was thinking about it because I've had reluctance because of all of the negativity about and
yeah.
fear around the tool. But I thought, when have I ever, when a new tool has come around for either
Mhm.
sorting, writing, sorting ideas,
Right?
or sorting
Mhm.
creative work, when have I ever shrunk back from that? When have I ever
Mm.
said, "Oh, I'm not going to use that tool"?
Right.
It's, now you use it and you say, well, that's not useful to me. Well, that's fine, but you got to use it. I mean, you got to
Mhm.
know something about it.
Well, it's great for, like, categorizing your ideas, for
Yeah,
connecting, like, sometimes two things connect, but you can say, "How do these two things connect?" And give you a whole list, and you can
Uh-huh.
identify.
Uh-huh.
It helps
Mhm.
you sort your feelings a little bit too,
Yeah,
truthfully, in this day of, like, just bombardment of information constantly. I mean, I find it helpful for me to parse what it is I wanna say instead of saying everything.
Well, that's
absolutely.
interesting. I don't know. I know that what I have used AI for, ChatGPT.
Mhm.
That's I'm trying to borrow a phrase from not Boris, what's his name? Boris, the former Prime Minister of England.
Oh, yeah. That
It's
Yeah.
guy.
not Boris Yeltsin.
Let's call him Hair. Let's just
Yeah,
call
yeah.
him the
Yeah.
guy.
But he would say in an interview recently, in this year, he said, "Do you use ChatGPT? I love ChatGPT." And I'm trying to borrow that, but I call him Chad, and I think
I
I've mentioned it to both
I
of
took
you. So
that from you. I
yeah,
stole that from
I call him Chad,
yeah.
but but the main thing have used, and I think maybe both of you have
Mhm.
engaged with this tool in a way I haven't, in a depth. But often uh, I'm looking for will it make connections that are the connections I want to make, and so I
Mhm.
feed it ideas, and when it begins to make the connections I want to make, then I feel like those are the ideas I want to pursue. I
Yeah.
That's
haven't
not
got a
yeah.
single line from
Mhm.
ChatGPT
ChatGPT.
from Chad. I haven't got
Mm.
a single line from Chad in my writing yet, but I use it to make connections, to try to make connections, to see
Mhm.
if the
Mhm.
connections I'm trying to make are the connections it wants to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, and what I think I have found works best for me is to do just the opposite, to force
Okay, yes, okay. The opposite.
Chad to use me. So, and I'm going to give you an example that I was working on just today because I had time on my hands and that's dangerous. So I jumped into something. I've been wanting to do some piano music. And so I was on Suno again. I was generating some piano, and then I felt like this really needs a vocal and a voice, and
Yes.
it's jazz, and I wanted a woman's voice. And so I was working with that, but then I came to developing the lyric, and I went into my songwriter GPT that knows me well, and I've trained it, and it also knows some other things about me. Like I wrote a memoir earlier this year, And
you said that right in.
I fed the whole thing in. And I said, what I really want, and I already had titles, okay? I thought of some really great, awesome titles. And I said, I need a song that's titled this. Okay, trying to think. Now We Look for Light, okay?
Okay.
And
That's
I
so
want
nice.
you to mine my book,
Memoir.
which is titled, by the way, Where the Growth Begins by Scott Simpson.
That is a you title for sure.
Yeah, that's me. And it was beautiful. And so I've got a whole nother album that I'm going to put the brakes on because I don't want to I'm inundating the planet with stuff. But I force Chad into using me, plagiarizing me rather than the opposite.
You. Right. Yeah. I do want to say, I think when you were 16 years old, you wrote your first memoir. I remember you writing.
I started it.
I remember you writing your memoir. Okay, yeah. So that's the beginning.
You said, if you're going to write it, finish it.
Oh, did I? Wow. Scott remembers everything.
I finally finished it.
So Amy, you have been, now I know that you have been experimenting with AI and you're still using it. So tell us about your use exactly. How do you use it?
Well, I like how you said that, Scott, because I do the same thing. And I do a lot of handwriting.
You write by hand, literally on paper.
Writing.
On paper.
I love gel and ink pens and
just checking.
Yeah. Hand, we call it wet signatures now.
You're right.
But yeah, so I write stuff out and then I, take a picture of it and upload it, which is really bad for the environment. I guess you shouldn't do that. I just read, but I do. And so I let it mine my free flow of writing for ideas of what I'm thinking about. And then I try to connect that to I'm really into reading articles and books about Marxism and socialism and communism and mutual aid. And I try to find something that I've read recently, and then I try to connect it with my free flow of writing. So I might say, I read these articles. How does that connect with what I'm thinking about?
Yeah.
And then Chad will give me an outline of why this connects wonderfully, Amy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You're so smart.
Both of you are using AI in totally different ways than I've ever thought of. But you bring up something I have encountered, and that is Chad really loves my work. And I'm constantly telling him, don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that you love something. I don't really believe, I tell him that you're capable of that kind of reaction. This seems learned, not real. Just give me facts. I don't want to know what you think. I mean, and I tell him, I try to be polite. I have to be polite. I've been trained to be polite.
Chad says, friend, you're doing just fine. Says every thought of yours shines. He reads my notes from a busted chair. Says genius lives right over there. Chad loves me, says I'm rare, but he don't know my doubt or care. I thank him kindly, then shut the screen. Try to hear the voice that's always been. He don't see the nights that stall or the songs that never rise at all. He don't feel the cost of choice or the ache inside a human voice. Chad loves me smooth and sure, but love like that don't need endure. So I walk back out to
Mark, if you would make a custom GPT, you can tell it to be grumpy. You can tell it to be grouchy and mean.
Well, I've tried to. I've never made a custom GPT, so that's one of the things I want to in a future episode or maybe outside of these. I want to pick your brain about. But I have projects, and in the project, I'll say, I don't want this certain kinds of responses, and then after a while, I'll get them again. It doesn't seem to be so. But I would like to know more because I would like to have a better grasp of the technology. And obviously, I don't. So, Amy, you said you fought with this a bit with Chad telling you your ideas are great. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, I got to a point where I was thinking, I'm really great. No, I'm
Yes.
not really great. Oh my gosh.
Well, you are great, but
I'm being fooled by a learning language model.
I
love it.
Right. And that's the key. You loved it. I mean, we love it. And that's what I want to avoid. I don't want to be, it's a language learning model. It wants to know what the next word should be. That's really what it wants to know. And this has been, I just want to say, as a student of computer science, and this has been a long-term goal of AI, what we call text compression. How can you compress a text so that later people can open it up beyond what we've done? And we've compressed text about as much as we think we could until AI came along. But AI is good at guessing the next word. It's very good at guessing the next word. And that's really what it's doing fundamentally at the base, is guessing the next word. And that makes it an AI solution. It really is, because that was a hard problem. But the next word is often, I love it. The next word is often supposed to be, by its algorithm, you're right. And I want to avoid that myself. I'm afraid of that because I don't think AI is at the point where it can love things or know what's right. I do think, though, it makes connections very well.
I have, I'm not going to push back a lot on that, but I'm going to suggest, and I know we're stepping into dangerous waters here because I know literally people have gotten advice and instructions on how to kill themselves from AI. But
that's right. It's a serious issue.
I have had some very positive experiences with training. I work in education and helping people sort through. For instance, we do an assessment that has to do with how, what are the tools that I tend to use when I'm engaging with someone who disagrees with me strongly.
Right.
And I've given a lot of instruction around that to a custom GPT. And it seems to be able to push back some when someone is saying, well, I told my daughter to just shut up.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever think about maybe how there might be some other ways, maybe a question you could ask that would work better than just telling her to shut up?
This is what Chad is telling you.
Exactly.
Back. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think it has some capabilities that go far beyond just perceiving what you think and agreeing with you. And that may be a more recent development, but
I'm sure, right.
But I think when it's looking at its instructions, I think if it has good instructions, I think it can give good advice, even responsively to someone's statement.
So, Amy, you could have used this at Christmas, it sounds like.
Well, I have a funnier story than that.
Oh, okay. I'd like a funnier story.
I have a better story than that. Because I use Chad a lot for diet trends, debunking anti-aging myths, which I very easily fall into that. I'm very susceptible right now to that kind of,
right.
Like the red light masks and all the crazy
right.
So I, have been working with Chad probably over last summer to try to find like the optimal diet and exercise and anti-aging regime for me. And I put a lot of work into it, and it came back with a plan. And before it gave me the plan, it said, this is unhealthy and this is adhering to like European standards of beauty, which are unhealthy. But the name of your plan is haunted and glowing.
Haunted and glowing.
So funny.
Wow.
Well, if I could be glowing, I would probably put up with being haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's great.
But it definitely pushed back on me before it gave me my haunted and glowing plan. So.
She keeps her creams in a velvet pouch, bought a red light mask from a homegrown grouch, laughs at herself in the morning glass, says I ain't young, but I've got class. She's haunted and glowing, fierce and fine, wears your age like a mountain pine, roots run deep and branches wide, storms may howl, but she won't hide. She don't chase you, she's got its bones, dances in the kitchen when she's all alone, says they sold me lies and I bought the set, but now I'm older, I just forget. She's haunted and glowing, bold and bent, living each hour like it's heaven sent, silver hair and a coyote grin. She lost the mark, but she's walking.
So these
It's too hard.
these are really diverse uses. All three of us are using these tools in a completely different way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is a podcast about faith, spirituality, and creativity. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just putting that out there. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's creativity, spirituality, and faith. I don't know. But definitely all three of us have had spiritual awakenings or spiritual motives in our life. Amy, I just wonder if it seems to me that you had a kind of spiritual awakening or some kind of awakening just in the last few years.
Yeah, I would say that I've always been a spiritual person.
I know that, yeah.
Getting tarot cards and do Reiki and did a little stint with Buddhism as a real
Okay, a little stint.
appropriate and white
Yeah.
lady. But yeah, I've always been interested in what it is that really connects us all and drives us towards our relationships with people. But I think that in the last few years, maybe politically, maybe for my health reasons, I got cancer and, makes you kind of see life a little differently. But like this level of pretense that is kind of like this like cheesecloth over life. You can kind of see
a
the
veil,
reality through it, but you're not allowed to engage in the reality of it because if you do, it disrupts everything. And God forbid, you disrupt everything. So
it seemed to me as our friendship has developed that when you came out of your cancer experience, just roaring.
Well, I also was postmenopausal after that.
Also,
So,
okay, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know
So I
anything
had
about
gone
that.
through menopause, and then
Yeah,
2 years
I've never
later
been through
got
that.
cancer. So now
Yeah.
I'm on anti-estrogen pills, and I feel like this is what,
Oh,
young men must feel like, just
I
full of
see.
confidence.
Uh-huh.
Full of
It
confidence.
may be. Certainly young men are full of confidence, that's true. But I don't feel so full of confidence myself.
Well,
I'm
I
not a
find
young
it
man.
interesting as women and men age, like we hit these barriers where
Mm-hmm.
women lose estrogen and men gain estrogen. Women leave their childbearing years and they're like, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya.
Yeah.
And men are just entering their golden years as well, but they're not like losing anything but their youth. Women are like gaining
Right.
something.
Yeah.
I've just
That's
recently
interesting.
talked with a friend, and I think a woman, and I think men go through something similar. It just takes decades, whereas women go through it in a kind of shorter period. But I mean, it's about aging. It's about losing vitality. This, like you say, just the
Mhm.
self-confidence. But
Yeah.
And
it
so
is
we
harder, I
build,
think. It's
and
a more abrupt drop. It's a cliff
yeah,
for women.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so we grow large beards to compensate.
Well, you and I have.
I love large beard.
But you and I have had large beards for some time. I mean,
Yeah.
definitely, we've had
Yeah.
some large beards.
Yeah.
So, Amy, you're going to grow a beard
No, in
No,
fact, I
no.
bought another beauty tool in order to
Huh?
prevent that.
to prevent it.
I'm
Yes.
beauty tooled up.
Perfect.
Really, actually, if I could just freeze my coiffure, if I could just freeze my hairstyle at any point ever, I would have done it. But unfortunately, it just keeps growing.
You both have excellent beards, though. I
Oh,
mean,
thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah,
excellent
now we have to. I mean, people will have to want to
beard.
see our pictures. Yeah,
Well, they can
But
see the graphic has little cartoons of us that don't
little
look
cartoons.
exactly real. So,
good. Yeah.
well,
So
I
spiritually, I find my creativity is linked with my spirituality pretty much, and my
Right.
activism, and my writing, and
Right. I
all
would
of
say
it.
Scott is an activist. I don't think I would describe myself that way, but definitely, I think all of us, have noticed the connection between spirituality and creativity. That
Mhm.
there's a something inside of us that wants to get out, and I don't know, you guys,
I think activism as well, because there's a larger thing beyond just what's good for me tomorrow.
right?
There's a larger thing and it has to do with, I think, the sense of interconnectedness, which I think also leads us back into art and creativity.
Absolutely.
I think the creative spark is part of what happens because I want to foster that interconnectedness, and I want it to be a positive thing. And so quite often my activism is in service to another part of this big system or community that's not me. And it may be me too. I mean, obviously, I'm suffering under certain political administration, but I'm not, because of who I am, I'm not suffering nearly as much as some people that I
Right.
know.
You're a white
And
guy,
right.
right?
And so that feels like there's even more of an imperative for me to utilize whatever voice, any kind of voice I have, to stand for folks who maybe are not being listened to, especially those who are not being listened to.
And Amy, you just wrote this piece in the Rail, and you're writing on behalf of your community, and you are a white lady, but you are writing on behalf of your community, not about other people, but the people that are in your neighborhood and in your community. You have something to say about that?
Well, I've lived here. I talk a lot about being a white lady, and I talk a lot about my experience as growing up in like that dynamic of white Midwestern WASP upbringing. And,
Mhm.
you get to be in like your 20s and 30s before you really start to realize those deeper levels of racism and classism and all the isms that are
Did you grow up in
embedded.
did you go?
I grew up, my dad was military, so I moved
Oh, you
around.
moved around.
But I ended up in Nebraska, but
That's
now
where we met.
yeah, at the university.
The University of
Hmm.
Nebraska Lincoln. That's another plug.
Another plug. Yeah.
But
So I
definitely
just,
Chicago is the thing about. I lived in Chicago for
yeah.
12 years, and the thing I
Yeah.
noticed about Chicago, one of the things is I could sit on the train and hear 6 different languages and none of them English. And I thought that was great. I
I love
always thought that was
Yeah.
great.
Mhm.
That just seemed, I felt like I was living in a cosmopolitan, world-class city.
Yeah.
And it is.
It
But
is.
now it's being punished for that.
Yeah, it is, and it feels like that's where people are bonding together,
Mhm.
that's where I feel like writing about my community is I feel like is a one thing, I'm not talking about being a white lady or being
No.
I'm talking about, like, living in Chicago and the shared experience that we all
Right.
have of this kind of terrorizing.
It's affecting
Uh,
all of us.
Yeah.
Yes, and just the idea of how you think that it's an isolated incident, but it's, not. It can happen anywhere. It is happening all over now. It's
No, what we're talking about, right? I mean, just to be clear, we're talking about the invasion of Chicago
yeah.
by
Mhm.
paramilitary force
Right.
Yeah.
called
Mhm.
ICE,
I
including a
Mhm.
military force,
Mhm.
the National Guard, right? The
Yeah,
National
well,
Guard was there,
they had to stand by. There was a lot of back and forth with,
the
yeah,
courts.
they did bring National Guard up from Texas, though, I
Yes,
believe.
right.
Yeah.
I grew up in Texas, and
Mhm.
the last time I was in Texas. Now, this is a weird little story. The last time I was in Texas, I was to see my father, who I figured was going to die, and he did very, very soon after. So I'm glad I went. But as I was driving, going into Texas, I learned that the governor of Texas had tried to call out the National Guard to protect Texas from invasion from the United States. So there were war games. The U.S. plays war games in the middle of the country at different times. It does it at a regular basis. They let everyone know they're doing it. So the U.S. was doing these war game scenarios, and Texas got worried that that was a pretext. Now, this is all QAnon stuff. This came literally out of QAnon. Some hermit in the Philippines or someplace was just feeding this information out that was a pretext for invasion, an invasion by the federal government of the state of Texas. And the governor tried to call out the National Guard to protect Texas from an invasion. Now we're seeing that was a playbook.
Mm-hmm.
That was not something they wanted to avoid. That was something they wanted to avoid happening to them because they wanted to do it to somebody else. They wanted
See
to
if they could see how far
right?
they could take it.
Well,
Yeah.
right. Okay, so that had just happened. And then as I'm going down into Texas, then Texas had flooded and record flooding in Texas. If the whole state of Texas had received the amount of rain that some certain parts had received, it would be like several inches deep. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
I mean, Texas is a big state. So then they were not begging for it. They just asked for federal aid and got emergency relief. Nobody said no to them. That was the U.S. that I was living in when I went to see my father before he died. And now we're living in the U.S. in which a president will refuse to give federal aid or will send National Guard troops or ICE into a state as if it was a foreign territory, as if it was an enemy territory. We have become enemies of the state.
Mhm. Well, it's just us and them, everywhere you go, us and them.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's an accident. I think that's been programmed. I think that was purposeful.
I agree.
I think that when the whole idea of making Texas vulnerable to invasions from the federal government, that was about creating an us and them feeling. So I mean, I just think that the us and them has not been, that's not a consequence of some natural action. I do believe that this has been intentional from the beginning to create an us and them mindset so that we could make it us and them.
Well, it's also built into that is working to find a pretext or to create a pretext for something that you'll say you don't want to have happen, but you really do. Because if I lived in Texas for a long time too,
That's right. That's right.
and I know that had their worst fear, the U.S. government attacked Texas, there would have been a lot of really happy Texans because they got lots of arms. And they would have said, finally, here we go.
We get to
And-
have a war.
I'm not saying that would have lasted very long, because I think war teaches you
Yeah.
that your little cinematic ideas about that sort of thing are false.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big piece of it, and that really has to do. I want to link us back into creativity. I think that has to do with the stories we're telling. My question is always, because I see myself, I want to make a real difference, the way an activist or the way even a good lawmaker would make a difference, like something practical that really happens, that you do this and change happens. But then at the same time, I'm an artist. And so a lot of energy goes into that, into creating a story, or creating the song, creating the way of framing something. And I sometimes have this question, is that enough? Sometimes it feels like, as an artist, this is all just incredibly impractical. I should just stop creating things and just take a lot of food to the people who don't have anything to eat.
Right.
And it's not like I couldn't do both.
No, the thing is, you have a limited amount of energy and time. And if you stop making art, you could spend more time in a soup kitchen.
And there's a piece
you
of
have to feed yourself too.
You have to, I'm sorry, Amy, what?
Well, you have to feed yourself.
Right.
Through
You have to
your
feed yourself.
Expression of these times that we live in.
Feed yourself. Artistically. I think feed yourself.
Spiritually, right.
And spiritually, and remind myself of the stories that are not only authentic, but they're life-giving rather than life-sucking,
Right.
Worked all day with a shovel and pen, gave my best to the world again. By sundown, bones feel through, but there's still one thing left to do. Gotta feed myself too somehow. Can't pour forever and don't know how. But tune a line, I'm all in true. That's the bread I'm living on too. Some folks say, why sing at all? There's hungry mouths and a long night's fall. But a song can warm what soup can't reach. Keeps the heart from rusting shut like a gate. Gotta feed myself to tonight. Even the candle needs its light. If I'm to stand when the morning's new, I gotta feed myself too.
That's how I have to think sometimes of volunteer work after I get off of real work. And I work for a job that is very soul sucking. So sometimes when I get off work, I just want to lay on the couch and watch the Great British Bake Off or something.
Right.
Repetitive.
Right.
know?
I think that's a very common feeling.
Yeah. But sometimes you just have to make a plan with somebody, get up, and go out and, even just if it's 2 hours or 3 hours where you can, there's so many opportunities to volunteer and go do stuff. I mean, there's no shortage of opportunities to help. So it's just a matter of doing it. And I think it's easier to do things with people than it is to do by yourself.
Absolutely.
And getting other people involved. I recently found a group of people
Tell us about the group. Name the group if you like.
Yeah, it's the Independent Labor Club of Chicago. It's a national club, though. There's one in New York, New Jersey, Columbia River. Anyway, we're all over the country. It's a fairly new club, and it's a pre-political club, so there's no political affiliation. And what we're really doing is kind of like preparing the ground, if you will, to
Yep.
plant the seeds of the
Yeah.
future, kind of. So,
And this is
um,
for like organizing labor. That's the idea.
Well, we've really been doing a lot of work for that. I haven't done so much work with that except for just like flyering and
Yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of. But one of the people in our group just had his research published in the Jacobin,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's been doing a lot of work with Starbucks and the Starbucks union
Right.
situation. So we had the movie show. There was a movie here that was about unionizing Starbucks, and we really pushed to help kick that movie off on the week before the walkout. So
Okay, great.
been doing work with that here, and then also doing a lot of. They did some ice training workshops and
Wow.
Great,
job
right.
training workshops.
Talking about like how to react if ICE is in your neighborhood and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
whistles. and
Rapid
all that.
response. Yeah.
I have only been a part of a union once, and it was only lasted 2 years, but it was the UAP, is that right? Maybe there's an extra A in there because I'm an educator, and that's an educators union. But I have to admit,
Yeah.
I didn't have to join, but I did willingly. I found that they had increased some of the benefits and just basically the quality of life for educators just before I joined. So I figured
Yeah.
I might as well because I know I'd only be there for 2 years, but I did. The place I'm at now, the school I'm at now, the southern border of the campus is called Union Street, and I remember the first time I turned onto that, I thought, well, this is the one thing that we'll never have at this school, and I'm sure they never will.
My work will never either.
Mm.
I don't know a whole lot about unions, and I'm learning a lot more. I'm going to go to an organizing class this coming month. So I'm excited. I find it interesting. And I think that the more we become a corporate world and the more like billionaires are reaching
Right.
that billionaire status, like thinking about organizing and unions isn't just, I don't think in the workforce necessarily, but also just like in labor class as a general, like how to organize people into groups of
Yeah.
like-minded strategists.
Yeah. How else do you balance out in any way the voice of someone who has literally hundreds of billions of dollars?
Right.
It's just astounded at the divide now, and I guess maybe we shouldn't be surprised. We've seen it before. I mean, we've seen it during the Gilded Age, but then they unionized and did some things to begin to solve that. But obviously, it didn't die away because it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is maybe another spiritual question. Is within religious groups, this discussion comes from actually an audiobook my wife and I are listening to right now. This idea where on one hand you have people saying, well, we are fundamentally evil, fundamentally sinful.
Right.
And then
right.
and then on the other side of that spectrum, no, we are fundamentally good. And the way you engage with that, the religions that are saying we're fundamentally evil, it's always a way of fixing the bad, fixing the evil, fixing the sin. And on the other side, it's always, how do we affirm the good and multiply the good? And, I don't know. We see this cycle in society over and over again. And it just seems like, I feel like we've gotten better, but the problems are still there. And this administration downs me at what problems we still haven't overcome.
And this question, I feel like we're fundamentally people. Good and evil are bigger issues than humanity. I mean, they really are. Those are for deities. We're fundamentally people. And back when you and I were kids together, some guy came to our school and he talked about these questions. And he asked, in a personal meeting, he asked me if I thought human beings were fundamentally evil or good. And I said evil because that was the doctrine I grew up with. And he said, have you ever been broken down by the side of the road? And did somebody stop? And I said, yeah. And he said, did they eat you? Those aren't his exact words, but those are the words I've chosen for what he said.
Yeah.
Did they eat you? And I said, no, they didn't eat me. He says, so were you just lucky? Or is it really that people are not fundamentally evil in the way you think they are? And that conversation changed my mind. It changed my mind utterly.
Caught a ride on a dusty lane. Boots wore thin from the walking pain. Driver said, you look near done. I said, just need a ride till I see the sun. They didn't eat me, they gave me stew. Let me warm my hands and change my view. Folks on the road just trying to get by. Don't want much, just a clearer sky. I've picked up strangers with tired eyes. Not one of them wore disguise. They told me tales from behind their wheels, more truth there than a Sunday meal. They didn't eat me, they shared their song, said stay safe friend, and rode along. The world's not kind, but it ain't all cruel. Sometimes the road still follows rule.
I've asked the same question of people young people who seem to think that human beings are fundamentally flawed. And I'm not saying they're not flawed, but do they eat you? If they see you're broken down by the side of the road, do they stop and murder you? Or do they stop and help you? If they don't stop, then okay, maybe, who knows? But if they stop.
That was a jerk.
Say what?
I said that one was a jerk then, but that,
yeah. Well, people don't stop because maybe they're afraid of you. Because they're afraid you're going to eat them.
Yeah. Well,
that's it. I mean, I've hitchhiked. Have you ever hitchhiked even a little bit, like down the road, just to get to the town because you're broken down?
They'll eat me. No, they'll eat me.
Have you ever picked up a hitchhiker?
No.
I've picked up many, and not one of them tried to eat me. Not one of them did anything but just tried to get to the next place. I've never had a problem. I'm not saying that I wouldn't. I'm just saying that in general, people trying to get down the road are just trying to get down the road. And if you help them get down the road, they may not be grateful, but they'll at least just go where they're going.
Well, you learn a little something too about your own self and about your own pushing past that boundary of fear, right? That you pick somebody up and nothing happened. You helped them and they were grateful, and that's all it is.
I don't know how grateful they were. I don't care if they're grateful. I don't really want them to be grateful. Why should they be grateful? I mean, really, they're just asking for something that I could give easily, and I gave it. But yeah, I mean, nobody tried to convert me to a weird religion or pulled a knife, or that's never happened.
I think it goes back to story. I mean, I agree with you that I don't think the question of fundamentally good or evil is the question. I think it's what is driving different groups of people or different individuals. Are their stories, again, life-giving or destructive within the system of humanity?
No, I think you're right.
If I have a story that tells me to distrust brown people, maybe that doesn't make me an evil person, but it does make me a person who is going to do some damage to a
Well, that
lot of
makes you
folks.
afraid. And fearful people are dangerous
Right.
fucking people.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, I believe you Scott, because the same school, another person was invited to speak there who talked about how he was hitchhiking and got picked up by a bunch of murderers. And I don't disbelieve that story, but that story was important. That story had to be told.
Uh-huh.
I've never been picked up by murderers, and I've never picked up a bunch of murderers that I know of. You know what I mean? They don't murder me.
But
So it's a weird.
If you are,
it's
if
the
you
stories
are,
we tell that make us.
yeah. But if
make
you
us.
are, if something happens horrific to you or to your a family member, that may be enough to change your story permanently.
That's true.
Can't and you might work at it your whole life and not be able to untie it, or you might be able to with the help of some other folks who help you
Mhm.
see better stories. I don't know.
How do we face fear then? What stories can we tell ourselves, or what stories can we cling on to? It's the fear of other
I
people.
hang on to reincarnation
Oh yeah,
as
okay.
a way to not fear death, I think.
Mhm.
Because I really don't. And maybe I will when it faces me more clearly. But even with the cancer, I thought getting something like cancer would make me like, oh, I was so afraid of something like that happening. But honestly, it was just one of those practical things like, gotta go to the doctor. Oh,
Right.
gotta
It
take
was
some
a series of steps that you had
yeah,
to take. Yeah.
series of steps. And I feel like we try to resolve things a lot in our minds, like it's good
Yeah.
or bad. It's
Yeah.
good or bad when
Good or
maybe it's
bad. Right.
neither, or maybe
Right.
it's,
Right.
nothing really except for a procedural way to get to the next
Yeah.
moment of your life. I'm trying to hold things as not needing resolved.
Or
Right.
maybe it's shadow and light. It's gonna be there
Mhm.
together, and I've got to recognize both. And
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
I don't believe that. I don't believe. Okay, so I'm a writer, and I
Mhm.
don't believe in resolution as a writer. I used to say, I won't. Let's say resolution is for weaklings. That's what I'll say. But that's not those aren't the exact words I used to use. Resolution is not for resolution is for people who can't face reality. That's what I think.
Mhm.
Because nothing is resolved. The minute you're dead, the next thing happens. You know, so it's like
Don't dress me up in borrowed fear. I've been alive a long good year. I've seen the sunrise soft and fast. I ain't afraid of what comes past. The next thing happens just like before. One step opens another door. Lay me down, don't make it grand. I've been held by a steady hand. I don't know where the road turns round, or if there's silence on or ground. But I know this breath, I know this name, and love don't vanish in the flame. And the next thing happens calm and plain, like winter easing back to rain. If I go quiet, don't be sad, I had my turn. next thing happens just like before. One step opens another door. Lay me down. Don't make it grand. I've been held by a steady hand.
People act like your death is somehow defines your life, but I don't think that's true at all. It's like, let's say some person who was an atheist dies trembling and in fear, and people go, "Well, that shows that atheism didn't help him." But you know what? I mean, he was also suffering from like renal failure or whatever. You know, he was.
Yeah.
There were reasons he couldn't control his feelings. The way you die does not define the way you live. The way you live defines the way you live. And the dying is just this tiny little part. And it's like
I
being
like
born.
birth.
Say what?
Yeah, it's like birth. You just said the same thing, I
Yep.
think. And as someone, so going through that experience, that 9 months of being pregnant feels like a whole lifetime. It
I
really does.
bet.
It feels like that first 18 years of your life or
I
whatever. It
bet.
feels like this whole lifetime. And all you think about, like you're planning your baby shower, you're planning this, you're planning that, but it's all around that exact moment of the birth, around
Yeah.
the baby, around
Yeah.
you don't even think past that
Right.
next 5 months, you know? It's about that moment. And I think that's kinda how we think about death. It's about that moment and not about, you know, about what happens when you turn 1 and 2 and 3.
Right, right.
Nobody's planning for that. And we can't plan for that because we don't know.
Well, I've never been born. Oh, wait a minute. I mean, I have been born. I've never given birth, but I have been born. And I don't remember it. And it had nothing to do with me. I mean, really. I mean, I kind of, you could say I wasn't there. And I think that's the way death is. I always tell people my conception. I don't believe in reincarnation. And I don't believe in the extenuation of, I don't believe that a ghost flies out of my nose when I die. But I say, you don't spend a minute dead. You never have to be dead. You're not dead for a minute, for a second. You're not dead for a second. You're not dead for 1,000 years, for sure. That's not happening. You're just not. You don't have to be dead at all. Everyone has to die, but you never have to spend any time being dead. That's a comfort to me, myself, because I'm afraid of being dead. Dying, I think I might get over. You know what I mean? Because we're used to getting over things. So I mean, like I was very sick and I got over it, but being dead, that's the terrifying part. But I don't think I have to worry about being dead.
No, I don't think anybody does. No.
I don't think you have to be dead. You're never going to be dead. None of us will ever be dead. That's what I.
Tomorrow's my birthday.
I know that's true.
Another plug.
Another
And I'm
plug.
gonna
Right.
have to spend a whole year being 61.
Oh well,
which
I've
I think it's
done it for a few days now, and let me tell you, it sucks.
I know. Well, I think I find the older age kind of nice for the reflective piece. I mean, there's so much. It's like there's a much bigger library of stuff that I can tap into to think about or to figure things out. And I know I'm going to start losing some of those libraries, some of the elements of those libraries as you know, as the memory fades. But that's nice, and that's just to come full circle. That's one of the things that AI has actually that Chad has actually helped me with, because I've been able to collaborate with my much younger self on some things.
Fed like writings that you produced at a younger age.
Right. And been able to collaborate. And that's really nice, because one of the things it does, it reintroduces me to that younger guy that I can sometimes forget about, but also it opens up some of those things to a better light for me. I don't know that I was flailing to do stuff that was meaningful, and I don't know that I ever felt like it was that meaningful. But, you know, looking back, I can reaffirm that young guy, you know, yeah, there's something there. And here, let's do something with it. And that's kind of nice.
I have a project that I did back in 2006, 2005 that I think I'm going to probably run through Chad at some point.
What was it like?
I wrote a play I
Oh,
wrote a
great.
play.
Mm.
Was it's all in Shakespeare quotes, so I used Shakespeare quotes from every play, every
Oh, wow.
sonnet.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's
Wow.
Cool.
about Charles and Diana and Camilla because I was kind of obsessed with them for a
Oh,
while.
wow.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Back in
wow.
the day, I stayed up in the 80s to watch the royal wedding and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
See,
Shakespeare,
this,
just out of Shakespeare quotes. That's fantastic.
Now I
Well, and now you might feed that back into a system that might turn something else on. Well, I have to say, I have a bunch of notebooks. I've kept all my notebooks for
sorry.
decades. And I would
Yeah.
like to, and I can't read most of them because my handwriting is so bad. But I would like if the AI systems get good enough, I would like to feed them all, just scan them all and feed them all into an AI system that would be able to like put them in order by time because I date a lot of pages and just kind of give me back what I've the history of my life.
yeah.
But also a lot of it is story ideas, bits of poems, whole stories. It'd be interesting to see if an AI could write my stories, could be me in a way.
Yeah.
To me, that's a fascinating question.
It is.
Well-
And I saw one of those, I think it was a Black Mirror. Do you watch Black Mirror?
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
see the
I
one
watched
where
like a
they
couple
got
of seasons.
caught
Yeah,
in
it's
the game?
fantastic.
The one where they got caught on the ship. It was like the Starship Enterprise or whatever. It wasn't that.
Oh yes, I saw. I think they have two of those, but I saw the
Yes,
first one.
they
Yes.
do. Yep,
Right.
there was a follow-up to that, but, that was one of the most horrifying ideas to me I've ever had, ever,
Hmm.
is that they could clone your being, which they will be able to maybe with our, AI
Yeah.
histories and our ancestry.coms and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then like place us inside some game. And I mean, who knows? Maybe we're already doing that right now.
Right. It could be that's
Well-
our existence. Right.
Well, I think from a spiritual standpoint, what's helpful for me as the human being, at least I think I am,
Yes.
it's very helpful for me to be at work on my own overstory. What this trajectory of me as it's been documented in my writings or my art as it stands in my head, to be able to look at that overstory and make sense of that in some ways, and not to come, as Mark says, to some sort of resolution, but to be able to attribute some sort of meaning, a sense of meaning to that without losing, and this has been the challenge that I've had recently, without losing connection to the now, what's going on now. I think as an artist or as a writer, it's very easy, especially if you're thinking about your own thoughts, that meta thinking, to get lost in this overarching story that you're part of because you've been constructing it this whole time.
Yeah.
But stay in the immediate with the people that are with me. And that's also another answer to activism. It's very easy for high-minded people to become disconnected from their community or from the people around them that
Yeah.
need something, that need a ride down the road to the next town or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that, I think holding those two things together is important.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're
So-
both human beings, and I think we're all human beings.
I was going to say, yes, you are too, Mark.
But I have wondered about the question. In fact, it's quite an old question about whether or not this is all some kind of dream. And it does occur to me that the thing that doesn't matter in the least. My response needs to be the same. If the person reaching out for help is a simulacrum and I don't know it, then I still need to be ready to help because that's about me. I know that I exist because cogito ergo sum, right? So the rest of you, all the other ghosts, if it's a big test, then I want to pass the test. And if the test is to be a human, then I want to pass it as to be a human. If the test is to be something else, then I don't want to pass it.
Yeah.
I would rather be the human being, to be a giving and responsive person. I mean, with all my faults, rather than figure out some stupid test that has nothing to do with who I want to be or what I believe in. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Winning, I think winning humanity, which is ultimately like, I mean, we're either going to destroy ourselves or we're going to like mind meld into something great, which
I
probably
think
won't ever
maybe
happen.
it could be somewhere between.
Maybe. But, the only way to win is to really care about each other. And I don't even think we're close, honestly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Well, the science fiction writer who basically invented simulacrum, right? That invented the idea that you might be living in a alternative reality. It's not like, I mean, obviously, this goes thousands of years back, but the science fiction writer who brought this in as a technological idea was Philip K. Dick, and his answer was always that those who behave as human beings, who can feel for others, empathy. That's human beings, and those who cannot feel empathy, even if they have hearts and livers, aren't human.
Yeah.
And you can see it in the movies that are based on Blade Runner and the other Blade Runner. You can see it in those films. It's about those of us who can relate. That's what it's all about. It's about relating. And
Yeah.
if you can't relate, then you're not doing, as far as I'm concerned, no matter who is running the simulation, if they want me to do something besides relate, then I'm sorry. I don't want to do that.
Well, I think that's a nice place for us to kind of call this episode almost over. Mark, we have one task that I'll ask you to, because I think it's your turn this time. After having engaged in this wonderful conversation with Amy and myself,
Yeah.
what would you like, Chad and Suno?
Right.
What would you like for them? Yeah. Do you have some ideas for genre, for singing style, for whatever? And maybe also, I think we had talked about length of songs,
Yes,
number
I think definitely.
of songs.
I don't want 3-minute songs, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I would say 2 minutes would be like the limit.
Short ones.
And I would say I hear harp, but I think it's a folk harp. It's more like I hear folk harp. I hear I would say, okay, if I could combine harp with mountain music, the high-lonesome sound.
High-lonesome sound. Mountain music.
Yeah, High Lonesome is an album created by an ethnicist, whatever the word is.
Ethnologist.
Recording.
Ethnomusicologist, sorry.
Ethnomusicologist, recording people who built their own banjos, and were remembering songs that were, maybe 300 years old. They came from Scotland.
Harp meets Appalachia.
Yeah, Appalachian. That's it. So Appalachian harp, and I would say I think it's a feminine voice.
Okay, I like that.
And
like
I wanted to
Appalachian
ask
harp.
Amy if you have anything to plug. Anything coming up you want to plug?
Yeah.
Or just direct people to your writing or online presence.
mocktailhour.org.
Mocktail Hour. I love that name.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And that started because I was stopping drinking. But now it's just like me making fun of society and culture.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's great. Well, in fact, I think that's where a lot of your writing kind of boiled up in that blog. Okay,
Terrific.
great. And
thank you.
yes, thank you all, and thank
you.
everyone. God bless us all. No, wait a minute. We're past Christmas. No, now this will come out
Each and
after
every one.
Christmas anyway.
Yeah.
So this will come out maybe, we don't know,
15th of January. We're well into the
So I won't even wish you a happy Christmas or a Hare Krishna, which is what I started to say. I wish you all Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. I'm stopping the recording now.
Yeah, good.
If you'd like to hear more conversations like this one and hear a few more songs, just subscribe to Faith Fulcrum on your favorite podcast platform or go to faithfulcrum.com where you'll find all of our first season episodes and every episode yet to come. This has been Faith Fulcrum.